Hey guys, this lesson, which is called Organizing Your Files, is sort of a catch-all for anything having to do with how you save your files, where they're saved, and then how you can access them conveniently. A related video that I already made on this topic, I simply called Throwaway Real-Time Files. I think I made that a few weeks ago if you're looking at my channel. That was because I saw a lot of students who weren't being that effective when it came to using a file simply for real-time practice. The end result is that their Eclipse folder was full of all these really unnecessary files. So that was related. But this lesson is going to cover things that are more sensitive or more related to actually users within Eclipse. Now by default, if you are a student, you're very likely going to have just one username. Well, here it is, your user file, which is typically your name, or at least as much of it as it captured. Mine is Catherine. Of course, that's my name, and yours might be different, whatever your name is. Let's take a quick look at, here we go. This is usually what you see as soon as you start up Eclipse, right? Users. It's a list of all the ini files, or user setting files that you have. I have a few. Maybe you might just have one. Actually, on that subject, well, no, later on, I'll cover something that will make this a little bit more streamlined. But if you have ever wondered, why does this pop up when you first begin? What would you possibly add to this? Why would you have different inis, or the user setting files? We're going to cover that in this lesson. To help you understand why you would have different ini files, is that assuming that you are going to be a deposition reporter when you're out in the working field, or a CART provider, or in any situation where you're probably going to be working in more than one setting. Maybe if you're an official, this won't apply to you so much. But for the sake of clarification, let's just imagine that you are on the road to becoming a deposition reporter. Well, guess what? You're probably going to work for a number of different agencies, and each of those agencies is going to have its own standard of settings. Maybe one agency wants you to have 25 lines on a page. Maybe another wants 26. Maybe they want the different sizes of the margins and document settings. They're all going to be slightly different. If you didn't have anything, if you did not have those agencies separated by ini, that means every time you started a job, you would have to remember what all of their settings are, go inside of either the paragraphs document, make adjustments here for spacing, or of course the document tab, and all of these could be slightly different, and it would just be a big headache. So honestly, being able to have different ini files, it's going to make your life so much easier. Aside from wanting to have all the different settings of paragraph and document spacing, etc. separate, you're probably going to want to have all the file or job files related to a specific agency separate from everything else. You wouldn't want them all to be, I don't know, heaped up in a big pile in one one folder on your computer, would you? Let's see, I'm going to open up what I have is just my core. I call it my core, or my main Eclipse user, which is Catherine. That's myself. Of course, I'm just a student, so it's just filled of all the tests that I take. Granted, I clear them out pretty regularly. Okay, yeah, there's a lot. But can you imagine if I was working for 5 different agencies and they were all being thrown in there too? That'd be a hassle to get through. So we're going to also discuss how you can separate where things are being saved, and it'll make it easier for you. Now, what do I mean by where is it being saved? Well, I did show you really quickly the folder on my computer, but how is that being represented inside of your user settings? Okay, let's take a look together. Inside of user settings, stay on the user tab, which is the first one that's open by default. We're going to be working a lot with this over the course of this video tutorial. In the corner is advanced. Click on this button, and inside of here, we're going to focus our attention under everything that's underneath the directories. This talks about where this, okay, let's see. Users, jobs, blocks, etc. I'm going to focus on these mostly. Users means where the user that you have, in my case, right now I'm inside of Catherine, where is that being saved? This is essentially the jargon that Windows understands, where it's saved as my users, Catherine, inside of my documents folder, inside of my Eclipse folder. All of my jobs, as I showed you, let me have it both open at the same time, here we go. Okay, kind of follows suit. The documents, Eclipse, Catherine, this is where everything is. Watch this. Documents, Eclipse, Catherine. That's where all my jobs are. Blocks. Okay, let me scroll on over. There we go. Or, I'm sorry, block files. This is something that Eclipse, I believe, automatically creates with every user. here's mine. Inside of it, I did attend a class where I had to make all my block files. We're not going to talk about what block files are, but you want to know that, actually, here you can see it. Here's the name. This is just something that is built into it. And so, again, with that same system of organization, we have the users Catherine document, Eclipse, Catherine block files. If I ever wanted to change these, I would simply click on it. Let's say I don't want all my job files, all the files I create to go in. Let's see, where is it being saved? Scroll down to see what's automatically selected. What is selected is as it was, Catherine. If I wanted to change that, I could simply visually look at this nice visual breakdown and click on something else. Maybe I want it to be saved somewhere inside of Catherine. If something is not already available, I can click on Make New Folder. A new folder will appear where I can name. And when I select it and press OK, then this will change. And going forward, so long as I load this user, any, again, any is the user settings file, everything will be saved there. So for the sake of this, actually before I continue, you might be curious what other file locations means. If you click on this, the first ones we see are the same as we saw let's see, on the previous thing right here. But this is a little bit more, I guess you could think it's more technical, because you could actually, you can physically write here and change the names of where these things are being, where things are organized with this little breakdown. I'm not going to get into this too much. I tried to do that in the class. It seemed to be a bit confusing. So again, just to keep things simple, this is a very 101 type of class. We're just going to focus on the first three, users, jobs, and blocks. Okay, as I was saying, for the sake of this tutorial, let's do a made-up scenario. I'm going to imagine that I'm working for Depot Agency X. Okay, wow. Depot Agency X hires me to do a job, but they have a very specific way that they want their pages to look. They're very specific about, let's say, the size of the characters or the number of lines on the page, the margins, all these things. To make life easier, they give me the ini file. Assuming that I've already loaded it in, I would want to differentiate my normal Catherine users with my Depot X user. What I would do, don't click the Create New User. That's going to start everything from scratch, which is annoying. Let's imagine I'm pretty happy with what I have by default. I'm going to copy everything over and then apply the changes to the settings that they give me. What I would do is I will save my settings. I'm saving everything as is. But I have the opportunity to enter a file name. Well, I'm going to call it Depot X. Great. Oh, look at that. User file changed. Now, where else can I see this? What does it look like? Oh, there it is. Inside of the user list, which I looked at by pressing on Load Settings, I see it at the top of the list. Great. I'm inside. So everything I do from now on, let's say I make adjustments here and there, I change that. Maybe I even want to change the display because when I'm looking at it, I'll know that I'm inside of Depot X because the background is blue and not gray or whatever. The important thing about this, like I said, is organizing your files. Where is it going to be saved? Now that I'm inside of my user file of Depot X, I'm going to go into Advanced. And here is where I can tell Eclipse, when I'm inside my Depot X user, please save everything to a certain location. Okay, click on Jobs. Scroll down to, well, I would like everything to maybe be inside of Catherine, but I want it to have its own folder. I'm going to click on New Folder. Okay, here it is. Well, I'll just call them Depot X. That makes it pretty straightforward. Where are you? There you are. Depot X. Okay, look at that. It changed here, and without me even having to ask Eclipse to create a block files folder of its own, it did that, and it did it right inside of Depot X. I'm going to reach on down and take a look at my Windows Explorer to see what it looks like. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm inside of Eclipse, pressing on Catherine. Hey, look at that. That's the folder I created, Depot X. What's inside of it? Nothing so far except for the block files. The block file folder is, of course, empty. I haven't put anything in there yet, but at least it's nice and organized away. Let's see it in action. Assuming, of course, everything would work fine. Okay, press OK. Everything's happy. I'm going to make, I'm not actually going to type anything, but I'm just going to have a real-time file that I'm going to start and make sure everything's fine. I'm going to call it, today's date. And then I'm going to say, you know, it's my asbestos case. No, I'm going to call it the apartment case. That's easier. It's the apartment case I'm doing. Look at this. It's allowing me to save the file right inside DepoX. I didn't have to go navigating around for it. That shows that because I had made the proper settings, the proper changes inside my user settings. Remember, I pressed on advanced, I clicked on job, and I said I wanted to be saved in my DepoX folder, all my jobs. Boom, it already did it. Perfect. I'm going to press OK and imagine, just imagine I'm writing. Or imagine you write a whole job, blah, 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 blah. You're all done. Wonderful. So, okay. Just close it out of the way. Get out of my face. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's take again another look at my Windows Explorer to make sure it did save there. Ah, there he is. And of course, as Eclipse has a tendency to do all the time, it will make a dictionary for that, and assuming it has its, of course, a note file as well. These are additional things that Eclipse makes for every user. It always has a reject dictionary, a remind dictionary, and a key mode dictionary. This is for another lesson. I'm not going to get into that, but you'll see how it is useful to have this set of files for every new setting. I'm sorry, for every new user. I want to show you something else that's really useful regarding an option within the User tab of User Settings. We already talked about the Advanced button, which tells us where the files are being saved. But right next to it is Dictionaries. This is a list that tells Eclipse what dictionaries to load automatically for any job that you do that's related to my user, which again is DepoX. For my default, it's always going to be my main dictionary. But let's say when working with DepoX, I'm going to be on this apartment case actually for many, many months. Rather than having to manually select the dictionary every single time I open a real-time file on the job, I can have it load automatically. I press on Add, grab my apartment case dictionary, which assuming I've been working on for maybe the first couple days, it's going really well, it's building up. If I click it here and I add it to the list, it's going to automatically load. Let's see that in action. Yep, there it is. My job dictionary has the apartment case in it. Wow, that's really useful. You can keep building on this. Let's say, you know, you're halfway through the case, many, many months in, and they say, you know what, we're shifting focus to talk about asbestos. Okay, I'm going to add a dictionary, which I just happened to make a very poorly spelled dictionary called asbestos right here. It's all filled with all my asbestos terms and briefs. Look at that. I add it, I press OK, I go to start my real-time file, and it's in there. This is going to make my real-time really, really smooth. I don't have to, again, manually find the dictionaries every single time. They'll load automatically. The last thing I want to talk about is switching between users. Assuming you've actually followed along with me and you tried making this DepoX user for fun, let's say you want to go back to your regular old, your main name user file. You would click on Load Settings. This looks familiar. All you have to do is press on Catherine, click it, it loads it, and now you are inside of the Catherine one. In the little time I have remaining, I'm going to show you how to quickly get rid of these imaginary users that you've made and maybe you don't want anymore. I just navigated on over through my Windows Explorer into my Eclipse folder. This little picture, this little icon right here, with this like a little piece of paper with a gear, that is the innie. I have one. I have a couple actually. But I had made one called DepoX just for fun. Well, I don't really need them anymore because I'm done with this tutorial. So I'm just going to delete that file. It's gone. And if you go into User Settings, press Load Settings, he is no longer there. So don't worry about creating innies that you just want to do temporarily. They're pretty easy to get rid of. So that's really good to know. Granted, the folder that I had made inside of Catherine called DepoX does still exist. So if I wanted to, I guess I'll just delete him as well. So the very last bit I want to cover quickly is if you have recently moved from version 6 to version 7, and again, you're not familiar with, wow, where did everything go? I really liked my old way of finding files. This is a really easy way to switch back. Just press on Browse and look. I'm sure you're familiar with this, and it's much easier. If it's easier for you to navigate around and find stuff, then more power to you. So don't freak out if you're not really sure how to use the new system of organization. You'll get used to it eventually, but at least you have the Browse button to go back to what you're familiar with. That's everything covering organizing your files. Again, it sounds simple, but it'll make a world of difference once you're out in the field. But it's never too early to start learning now. Thanks so much and happy organizing!